Hello everybody and welcome to Gene's Reviews. Reviews from a regular dude. Where I do trailer reactions, I react to YouTube videos, I review YouTube channels, occasionally I'll review a movie, but really, I just do whatever the hell I want. Hello everybody and welcome to Gene's Reviews. Reviews from a regular dude. Down in the basement. Sorry I missed yesterday. We're going to do one today, though, from Top 5 Unknowns. This is 5 unsolved missing 411 cases that will give you chills. Have you ever watched any of those from David Paulides, the missing 411? They're really interesting. Let's check this out. Losing my voice a little bit. I don't know what's going on.
The wilderness can be unforgiving and extremely dangerous, even to the most experienced of hikers and hunters. People go missing in the wild on a regular basis and are never found again, or they're found under strange and mysterious circumstances. Number 5. Morgan Heimer was a 22-year-old English student at the University of Wyoming. He hailed from the town of Cody and was known to be an avid outdoorsman and a strong swimmer, as is evidenced by the fact that he was also a river guide. On June 2, 2015, he was working as a commercial guide for Tour West, a rafting company who facilitates rafting trips of the Grand Canyon, Cataract Canyon, and Salmon River with the help of experienced guides such as Morgan. Heimer and a fellow guide were part of a group that was touring the Colorado River over 8 days, and they were on day 6 of their trip. The group had stopped at a low cliff where they were jumping into the water under watchful eyes of the two guides. As the last group completed their jump, the lead guide told Heimer that he was thinking about taking some time for a rest later that day. He then walked a short distance away from Heimer to talk to one of the other members of the group, and when he turned back to Heimer, he was no longer there. This was not a cause for concern, however, and the guide thought that Heimer had just stepped away to take a break. At around 7:20 p.m., he didn't show up to have dinner, and Heimer was reported missing, and searchers were positive that he would in fact be found, given his level of experience in the wild. Park rangers teamed up with search and rescue teams in search of Heimer, and a 14-mile area was covered. When this proved fruitless, the search was extended another 12 miles, but once again, there were no signs of Heimer, his flotation device, any of his equipment or clothing. Interviews were held with members of the tour group and fellow Tour West employees, but no one had any answers. On June the 9th, after still not finding any answers for a full week, rangers met with Heimer's parents, and they traveled to the area where he was last seen. But this too did not yield any results, and no sign of Heimer has ever been found.
It makes me wonder if between the time that he fell or jumped or whatever, maybe that's what happened. Could it take him away that quick before, so that when they do look for him, that he's no longer anywhere near there? Because they did search a pretty big area, but still, I don't know if he could be washed away that quick or just missed. I don't know.
Number 4. Carllanders, a 69-year-old man from California, made it his mission to climb the highest mountain peaks in all 58 counties in California. On the 22nd of May, 1999, he and two close friends, Barry Gilmore and Milton Gaines, were at their camp at Mount Shasta. The three men were preparing to set out on their climb of the 14,000-foot peak when Landers complained that he was feeling under the weather. He decided to set off on his own to get a head start, and Gilmore and Gaines agreed that they would catch up with him later at Lake Helen.
Why'd you do that?
When he left camp, Landers was wearing layers.
If you're not feeling good, I don't think I'd attempt anything like that, especially something that strenuous.
Of clothing, and he was carrying a backpack containing enough food and water for his trek up the mountain. His age was not a concern, as he was known to be an experienced hiker, and due to his love of running, he was in good physical condition. He also knew the area that he was climbing very well, and this was his second attempt at reaching the top of Mount Shasta. When Gilmore and Gaines reached Lake Helen, however, Landers was nowhere to be found, and they became concerned that he may have gotten lost. They immediately reported him missing, and the local county sheriff's department launched a search with the help of 2 helicopters from the California National Guard and California Highway Patrol, one of which was equipped with infrared sensors. The following day, searchers set out on foot, joined by the U.S. Forest Service, with some researchers having to cover several search areas on skis. Despite the fact that the landscape in the area has sparse vegetation and no deep crevices, Carllanders' disappearance is still a mystery 21 years later.
Things that make you go,
Number 3. The Michigan Triangle is an area located between Wisconsin, Michigan, and Benton Harbor. The area is so called because many strange events have occurred there since 1891, when a sailing vessel that was collecting lumber on Lake Michigan went missing and was never found again. In February of 1978, Stephen Kubacki was a student at a Christian university located near Lake Michigan. He was 23 years old and loved the outdoors, having previously climbed several mountains during a time when he was studying in Europe. On this day, he decided to go on a solo skiing trip, which would not last more than 2 days at most. However, a day after he was supposed to have finished his trip, he'd not returned, and his family informed authorities that he was missing. A search party quickly found his footprints in the snow and followed him to the edge of the lake where they stopped. This led them to believe that it was likely he'd fallen through the ice on the lake and had probably met his end. All that they found was his backpack and his skis. In May of the following year, a resident of Pittsfield, Massachusetts.
I wonder what it is with these triangles. Like the Bermuda Triangle, now this Michigan Triangle. Is there some kind of, I don't know, some kind of force or something that something we just don't know about?
Was approached by a man who turned out to be Kubacki. He later told his family that where they stopped. This led them to believe that it was likely he'd fallen through the ice on the lake and had probably met his end. All that they found was his backpack and his skis. In May of the following year, a resident of Pittsfield, Massachusetts, was approached by a man who turned out to be Kubacki. He later told his family that he'd stopped by the area near the side of the lake to rest, taking his skis and backpack with him. But when he got up to carry on, he couldn't find his footprints in the snow and became hopelessly lost. He remembered feeling cold and tired before losing consciousness, and when he woke up, the snow had melted and he found himself lying in a field, wearing clothes that he didn't recognize. He also had with him a backpack that he didn't recognize, as well as running shoes and glasses that he knew weren't his. He got up and started hiking, eventually reaching Pittsfield, where he approached the local resident. He was 700 miles away from the spot where he had gone missing. He made his way to his aunt's house, which was in Pittsfield, and it was here that he found out he'd been missing for 14 months. People speculate that Kubacki must have been suffering from amnesia, and that he had been wandering around the woods for over a year. After his strange experience, he decided to study psychology, eventually earning his PhD in a bid to explain what had happened to him. He would later publish a book in which he discusses the possibility of the existence of alternate universes. But despite looking for answers for years after the fact, there's still no explanation as to what happened to him during the time he was missing.
Now that is weird. How are you going to survive for 14 months like that and not remember anything if it's not like alternate universe or aliens, something like that? Oh, that's really, really bizarre.
Number 2. Danny Philippidis is a fire captain with the Toronto Fire Department. In 2018, he was 49 years old, and he was enjoying an annual ski trip with fellow firefighters at Lake Placid in New York. Their trip was nearing its end, and the group was gathering in a large lodge near the slopes of the Whiteface Mountain. While they were relaxing and sharing memories of their trip, Philippidis wanted to take photos of the group on their last day, but he realized that he'd forgotten to bring his camera. He told his colleagues that he would quickly ski down to the car where he left his cell phone and he would return shortly, but he didn't. By 4 p.m., his friends realized that he'd not returned, and the group set out to look for him. When they failed to locate him, an official search was started with Homeland Security, police, and border officials joining his fellow firefighters in a bid to locate him. His wife also flew up to Lake Placid from Toronto to join in on the search, but they were unsuccessful despite searching a combined 7,000 hours with ski patrols, helicopters, and search dogs all being used. Then, 6 days later, he found himself in Sacramento, more than 2,800 miles away from the lake where he had gone missing. When asked what had happened, Philippidis said he remembers making his way to the car to retrieve his phone. His next memory is waking up at dusk with his body aching and feeling disoriented. He then walked to the main ski lodge, but he found it deserted. It later turned out he'd mistaken another building for the lodge, causing him to become even more confused. He believes that he then flagged down a passing truck, hoping he could make his way off the mountain, but after traveling in the truck for some time, the driver told him that he was in fact in Utah. He was then dropped off in Sacramento, where he bought a new phone, but he couldn't remember his wife's number until the next day. To this day, Philippidis does not know how he ended up where he did. However, it's believed that while fetching his phone, he may have fallen and suffered a concussion, and that when he woke up, he got lost and traveled in the truck, not knowing where he was or where he was headed.
Could be that, or it could be that he just got like alternate universe thing. Like what happened to me when I lived in Arkansas and I have no idea why I couldn't find my way home. That was insane. All night long. I was only
Number
5-10 miles away.
In 1981, Maurice Demetz traveled from Pike National Forest where he and a friend, David McSherry, were rock hunting for topaz. Demetz was a theologian, earning his PhD from the Presbyterian Theology Seminary in Omaha, Nebraska, and gaining his master's degree at the University of Denver. He was a contributing member and editor of various Christian-themed magazines, in which he often wrote that he believed the Antichrist would be coming soon and would show himself as a political, religious, or commercial autocrat. On April 29th, he and McSherry drove to an area known as Devil's Head Lookout, where he would spend the day unearthing topaz, but Demetz suffered from arthritis and a blood disorder, which meant that his friend had to help him traverse the terrain from their car to their chosen spot. The men each chose a spot where they would dig, and McSherry found an area about 150 feet away from Demetz, which he found suitable. At about 3 p.m., after 2 hours of rock hunting, McSherry decided that it was time for them to make the trip home, and he walked over to Demetz's chosen area where he told him to finish up and get ready to head back. He then returned to his area and he packed up and collected the rocks that he had unearthed. It took about 15 minutes, and when he was done, he returned to Demetz's area to help him back to their vehicle, only to find he was no longer there and his tools were missing along with him. Believing that Demetz had somehow managed to climb the hill back to the car, McSherry returned to the vehicle, only to find his friend wasn't there either. He honked the horn and called out to Demetz but got no response. He made his way to the nearby Rampant Range Road, where he flagged down a passing motorist, asking for them to contact police. By 11 p.m., search and rescue teams were scouring the area, and for the next 5 days, intensive searches were carried out, but even search dogs could not find his scent anywhere in the area. With no signs of foul play or a struggle, it's as if Maurice Demetz simply vanished into thin air.
If you know you have all those medical problems, why are you going to even go someplace like that? Even though you're with a friend or something, I wouldn't go someplace like that with all those medical problems. Okay, I got a joke for you. A lady's walking down the street past a pet store. A parrot is on its perch and it says, "Hey lady, you're really ugly." A few minutes later she walks by again and the parrot says again, "Hey lady, you're really ugly." She goes to the manager and says, "Your parrot just insulted me. I'm going to sue you for everything you've got." The manager says, "Calm down, lady. I'll talk to him. It won't happen again." The next day she walks by and the parrot says, "Hey lady." She says, "What?" The parrot says, "You know." Thank you, everybody. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hashtag Mean Gene, all that fun stuff. And if you like this video, tell all your friends, leave a comment down below. And if you didn't like it, then just shut up. And I will see you next time.